Your thoughts aren't private. And if that makes you a little uncomfortable, it should, because it means the way you silently think about someone is shaping how they show up in your life far more than anything you say to them. Most people believe their thoughts are private. They think whatever is going on inside their head is invisible, harmless, and disconnected from reality. But what if that assumption itself is the problem? What if your thoughts are not hidden at all? And in fact, they are constantly shaping how someone feels about you, how they behave around you, and even how the relationship unfolds over time. This is where most people get stuck, because they try to fix relationships from the outside. They focus on texting the right thing, saying the right words, having deep conversations, or trying to explain their feelings again and again, hoping that the other person will finally understand and change. But despite all this effort, the same patterns keep repeating. The same distance shows up, the same confusion returns, and the same emotional cycles continue. The reason this happens is simple, but not obvious. You are trying to change the effect while completely ignoring the cause. The visible behavior of a person is only the surface layer. The deeper layer, the one that actually drives everything, is the image you hold of them in your mind and the emotions attached to that image. According to Neville Goddard and the idea of thought transmission, there is no real separation between you and the person you are thinking about. You are not just observing them from a distance. You are connected through a shared field of consciousness. And whatever you consistently think and feel about them is being communicated on a level deeper than words. This does not mean you are forcing thoughts into their mind like some kind of control. It means you are constantly influencing the version of them that shows up in your reality. Every time you think about them as distant, cold, uninterested, or inconsistent, you are reinforcing that version of them. And over time, without even realizing it, they begin to reflect that back to you. Think about it carefully. If deep down you believe someone is going to lose interest in you, that belief is not just sitting quietly inside your mind. It is affecting your tone, your reactions, your expectations, and your emotional state. Even if you try to act normal on the surface, that inner assumption leaks through in subtle ways, and the other person responds to it. This is why people often say they cannot explain why they feel a certain way around someone. They might say something like, "I don't know why, but things feel off," or "I just feel a bit distant suddenly." What they are actually responding to is not your words, but your internal state. Your mind is not just a place where thoughts happen. It is a transmitting system. Every thought carries an image, and every image carries an emotion. Together, they form a signal that is constantly being broadcast. And the clearer and more consistent that signal is, the more strongly it gets reflected back in your reality. This explains why inconsistency in your thinking creates inconsistency in your relationships. If one moment you imagine them loving you, missing you, and choosing you, but the next moment you feel anxious, insecure, and assume they are pulling away, you are sending mixed signals. And naturally, the response you get is also mixed. Hot and cold behavior is often not just about the other person being confused. It is a reflection of an unstable inner narrative that keeps switching between two opposite realities. Neville explained this in a very direct way when he said that people play the roles you assign to them. This does not mean you consciously decide their behavior, but it means your dominant assumptions about them shape the way they appear in your life. So if you constantly see someone as someone who does not prioritize you, who takes you for granted, or who is emotionally unavailable, that becomes the version of them you experience. Not because they are fixed that way, but because that is the role you have been repeatedly assigning to them internally. Now here is the part that changes everything. If your thoughts can unconsciously create these patterns, they can also consciously change them. But this requires a shift in how you approach the situation. Instead of reacting to what is happening right now, you have to start defining what you want to happen and mentally living in that version as if it is already true. This is what Neville called assuming the state. It is not about hoping something will change in the future. It is about internally accepting that it has already changed and allowing that assumption to become natural to you. For example, instead of constantly thinking about why they are not texting you, you begin to imagine and feel what it is like when they are already consistent. when they are already reaching out, when they are already present in your life in the way you want. You do not do this as a temporary exercise, but as a new normal way of thinking. At first, it might feel unnatural because your mind is used to the old story. It will try to pull you back into doubt, into overthinking, and into reacting to current circumstances. But if you persist in the new assumption, something interesting begins to happen. Your emotional state starts to stabilize. You stop feeling desperate or anxious. You stop overanalyzing every small action. And as your internal state becomes more grounded and secure, the external behavior of the other person begins to shift as well. Sometimes this shift is gradual, and sometimes it feels sudden, almost like the person has changed overnight. But in reality, the change started within you, and the outer world simply caught up. Another important part of this is understanding that every thought you hold has a kind of return effect. If you consistently think negative, critical, or fearful thoughts about someone, those thoughts do not just disappear. Even if they are not fully accepted by the other person, they stay within your own experience and shape how you feel and what you attract. On the other hand, when you consistently hold thoughts of respect, love, and stability, you begin to experience those same qualities reflected back to you. This is not about being positive for the sake of it. It is about maintaining a coherent internal state that aligns with what you actually want to experience. Distance does not break this connection. You do not need to be physically close to someone for this to work, because consciousness does not operate based on physical space. You can think about someone who is miles away, and that connection is still active in the same way. This is why people often experience moments where they think of someone and that person suddenly reaches out, or when they feel a shift in a relationship without any direct conversation. These are not random events. They are reflections of changes happening at a deeper level. Neville once used a simple analogy to explain this. He compared the mind to a system where thoughts are like vibrations. Emotions give those vibrations strength, and consciousness carries them to be received and expressed by others. When the signal is clear and consistent, the outcome is clear. When the signal is filled with doubt and contradiction, the outcome becomes distorted. So the real work is not in controlling the other person, but in stabilizing your own inner world. It is about becoming aware of what you are repeatedly thinking and gently redirecting it towards the version of reality you actually want. This also includes changing how you relate to the past. If you keep replaying old arguments, old disappointments, and old moments where things went wrong, you are not just remembering them. You are reactivating them. You are keeping that version of the relationship alive. Instead, you begin to revise those memories. You imagine them going differently, you see the other person responding better, and you allow that new version to feel real to you. Over time, this changes the emotional weight of the past and opens the door for a different future. All of this might sound subtle, but its impact is powerful. Because once you understand that your thoughts are not private, you stop being careless with them. You stop feeding the exact patterns you are trying to escape. You become more intentional, more aware, more in control of the narrative you are creating inside your own mind. And from that place, you no longer feel like you are at the mercy of someone else's behavior. You realize that the dynamic can shift not through force, not through chasing, but through changing the way you see and feel about the person at a fundamental level. In the end, your reality is not responding to what you occasionally wish for. It is responding to what you consistently assume to be true. And once that assumption becomes stable, natural, and emotionally real, the outer world has no choice but to reflect it back. Because your thoughts were never private. They were always creating the relationship you are living in right now. I hope this helped you. I will meet you with another golden nugget soon. Happy manifesting.